Damn, that was loud. Okay, what's the deal? Introduce yourself to the people.
My name is Caleb Stevens. I have a PhD. I'm a therapist and an adolescent addictions counselor.
Okay, and what are all your degrees in? Because you have a bachelor's and a master's too, right?
Right. Now, so I have a bachelor's degree in social work. I have a master's degree in social welfare, and I have a PhD in performance studies, where my program's title was Activism as Performance.
And I know about that one because I helped
That's
participate
right.
in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
whenever I talk to people about intelligence, I always tell them about that experience and how I just felt like I didn't know anything. I was just like, what do these words even mean, bro?
That's me every day.
Okay, so your job title, what exactly does that mean? What do you do in that position?
Well, actually, I have my own private practice, so I'm an intersectional clinician. So what that means is that I utilize Kimberly Crenshaw's understanding of intersectionality, the way that different people's lives and identities fold into each other and overlap and interact. And I am a mental health therapist. So what I do is I have clients, a lot of clients that are on the medical card, some clients that are private pay, and I have sessions with them throughout the week.
And was there a reason that you wanted a private practice?
Yes. So my private practice is set up to only serve Black, Brown, and Indigenous peoples. I'm one of the only Black male, cishet male therapists in Lawrence or the surrounding areas, really, that's under the age of 40, I would say. And I don't think that people that don't look like us need us as therapists when there are so few Black therapists.
That makes sense. And were there experiences in your lifetime that led you to choosing that? Like, did your childhood or whatever lead you to your profession and being specific like that in your profession?
Yeah, actually. So I was in therapy my whole life. I always had white therapists. And specifically with social work, my interaction actually started way earlier than I realized, because I think a lot of people interact with social workers and don't really know that they're social workers. For instance, when I was in elementary school and would struggle, they would have me go eat lunch with my man, Mr. Nelson.
Mm.
And I was like, man, I really like this guy. He's really nice. I go sit in his office, we eat and talk and kind of process through what's going on. And 25 years later, I was like, wait, he was a social worker. And so, as I moved into college and things like that, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I wanted to do social work, because that was really helpful. And he was the first Black social worker, like Black therapeutic influence that I had in my life, that I remember that was consistent, and actually created change in my life. And so Mr. Nelson was definitely the catalyst for that. And I had terrible experiences in therapy, very much like trying to reprogram me, not getting to the root of anything, just
Mm.
trying to help me to adhere to compliance.
Mm.
Mm.
And so what are you supposed to use therapy for? I genuinely don't know anything about therapy. So if I'm trying to convince someone that they need therapy or they should seek it out or whatever, what are you supposed to go to therapy for?
I mean, that's a really good question. I think that what we see in social media and what we see on, like, in films and movies, stuff like that, even on the radio when people talk about therapy. But I, I think that you can go to therapy for anything. You don't have to be doing bad to go to therapy. You can want additional supports. Therapy is supposed to be a conversation that is supportive, helps you to build short and long-term goals. It helps you to modify some behaviors that are maladaptive, meaning that they're not helpful to you in what you want to pursue. And also, therapy is for when things are going really bad. They can
Mm.
be a safe space where people can share some of their deepest, darkest secrets, pains, abuse, trauma, hurts, fears, things like that. And also, like, share the things that they love and want to pursue and be able to wrap themselves in. And your therapist should be gassing you up and also be validating and affirming you. Like, that's really a really important part of therapy, specifically and especially with non-white people. and
Mm,
non-cishet people, honestly.
yeah, that's cool, man. So I wanted to get back to what you specifically do because you said you deal with addiction, right?
Yeah, in my previous position as I was an adolescent addictions counselor.
Oh, but you don't do that anymore.
No, I mean, there are a lot of co-occurring disorders, so addiction, behavioral addiction, and like substance abuse disorders are usually co-occurring as we're trying to cope with the mental illnesses that we are experiencing.
So you're saying people have one thing going on and they turn to drugs for to try to help themselves with whatever they're dealing with.
Absolutely. I mean, look, it's very human to not want to be in pain. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, what I do when I'm in pain is I don't do cocaine, I don't smoke crack, like I don't do any of those things. What I do is I go to the gym, work out for like 5 hours. I mean, so we utilize what we have access to, hopefully to that works best, but oftentimes we just utilize what we have access to. So if I had PCP around me and I was really having a hard time and I was in pain and I did not want to exist the way I was existing, I would utilize whatever coping skills I had, whatever coping mechanisms I have. So absolutely.
That makes sense. And just so everyone knows, this dude deadlifts close to 800 pounds, squats over 600. This dude's crazy strong. So it's clear that you you spent a lot of time up in there.
I mean, and it's important to note that the reason why I work out so hard is because I have like a lot of pain, a lot of anger, a lot of hurt, a lot of trauma. And it's
Yeah.
really important for me to have a space where I can go and just work on me. Like
Yeah.
as a black man, as a bigger black man, like it's not easy to have space where I can go and just yell, like if
Yeah.
I need to. Oftentimes I'm quiet, but where I could go and yell, where I can work on myself when I have to serve other people, or I can just have a space where my brain can process. I also
Mm.
have ADHD, and so I've been unmedicated for 2.5 years. I finished my doctoral program, my comprehensive exams, writing my dissertation, creating a documentary, like without taking amphetamines that I've been on for 20 years, because I needed to compete in drug tested powerlifting. I don't use steroids and stuff like that. I don't use performance enhancing drugs. And I was like, my coach said, "Hey man, you're not gonna be able to compete that way." And I was like, "All right." So I stopped right then and there, and it was incredible. It's really a miracle that I'm a doctor at this point. It's a miracle that I do anything, but it's definitely a miracle because I grew up my whole life being told that if I didn't take my medication, I wouldn't be able to focus or do anything. It very much became a part of my personality rather than something that was supposed to assist me.
So how do you cope? You've been on the medication for so long. How does it affect you to not be on the medication?
Yeah, the I would say the worst thing about stimulants, about amphetamines, prescription amphetamines, but probably amphetamines as well, is the withdrawal. For 6 days, I felt loopy, I felt weak, I felt like a wet noodle, like I was hardly able, I was so tired, I was so hungry, like all of these very real experiences of withdrawal. And then I got stronger, and then I was able to focus. It was just like it cleared up my mind because what amphetamines do, I was on Concerta extended release.
Mhm.
What they do when you have ADHD is they also make you hyper focused. And so not only was all the things that I needed to focus on in focus, and even more so, but the fear, the abandonment, the trauma, the terror. I mean, I was doing community organizing as a Black Lives Matter chapter leader in Lawrence. All of that, death threats, all of that stuff was intensified tenfold. Um,
Mm.
and so the way I dealt with it is I just lived. Like I stopped trying to, they call it masking. I stopped trying to mask my ADHD symptoms and embraced who I was as somebody that's not broken, but just different.
And would you suggest that for other people, or is that something that you're like, nah, you need to handle that in a different way? Like that's just something that works for you, maybe. What do you
Uh,
think?
I mean, I'm not that kind of doctor. As a therapist, what I would recommend is very much for people to consider individual basis, your support systems, and things like that before you try it. Generally, going cold turkey on things is not awesome. It can be super dangerous with alcohol. When you're like have a dependence on it, it can be super dangerous and scary. Open like all kinds of other substances. For me, um, ADHD also makes me a very concrete thinker. So it was like my brain was like, "Yo, Negro, like do it or don't. This is it. Make a choice." And I was like, I decided in the gym when my coach sent me a message, I was like, I'm done, man. It's expensive, extremely expensive. You have to get really good insurance for the insurance to cover these level 2 like I don't know what they're calling narcotics or something like that. It's a controlled substance. And I was just tired of being scared that if I forgot my medication, I wouldn't be able to function. Like it's a very real fear of not being able to help other people or be available for other people. I mean, I'm a helping professional. What happens if I would have failed? What happens if I would have flunked out of my program because I said, you know what, this is not important enough. I'm out.
Mm. Man, I have a bunch of questions now.
Mm,
I really don't know what ADHD is. Like I know what the letters mean, but I don't know how that affects you on a daily basis. I'm sure it's different for everyone, but like, what do you have to deal with?
yeah. So ADHD is an understimulation of your brain. So your brain's constantly craving dopamine, serotonin, things like that, like the happy, stimulating parts. And so that's why you see people with ADHD do so much and get distracted by so much because our brain is literally starving for stimulation. And so
Mm,
for me, the best example I have for me is the more things that are going on in the room and with me, the better I am able to focus. So like when I wrote papers, when I wrote my dissertation, I would have piano music playing, I would have a candle lit, very specific smell. I would have like somebody on FaceTime that was there, like my editor, and I would just be typing. And what ADHD also does is that you either focus on nothing forever or you hyper focus forever. So I would write for like 6 hours at a time, but I would spend like a whole day just staring at the screen, being like, what what's wrong with me? Because
mm,
we get stuck in the stress of beginning tasks, of feeling overwhelmed by things. And so it's a really difficult spot to be in. One of the other facets of ADHD is like is something called rejection, like a fear. It's a very intense fear of rejection. I forget the specific acronym, um, but it's like when you fail as somebody with ADHD, not everybody has it that has ADHD, um, but there is an intense and traumatic fear response and failure response to not being able to connect with people. So if I do something and it's not good enough for somebody else, the response is very visceral and real in your body. And so, you know, as a helping professional, as somebody that I was also teaching when I was in the doctoral program, like really in there for our people, it was
yeah.
terrifying, honestly. So no, would I recommend that people do what I did? Hell no. Would I do this again? The program? No. Would I make different choices if I didn't feel like I was so alienated and broken on my life? Perhaps. I would like to think that I'd still be helpful, but you know, masking in general is something that's really normal for people that have ADHD or OCD or autism. You know, people are
Yeah.
on the spectrum. I mean, like trying to adhere to neurotypicality, like people that don't have mental illness, is something that society forces us into.
Hmm. That makes sense. I was gonna ask you something that I don't know if you're qualified to answer, but I mean, I think I told you this already, but I wanted to know how we can prevent addiction if you know things
Yeah,
that you can do to prevent addiction.
that's a really important question. And the answer is this: we use because we're hurting. Trauma is the root of all of these things. We're trying to cope to make ourselves, and rightfully so, not feel what we're feeling, to be able to get out of situations that oftentimes are completely out of our control. And so I'm a trauma and healing based therapist. So at the beginning, before I learned, I was trauma based, right? Trauma focused, very white, things like that. Very, very white, inundated with kind of psychology stuff, as in people are problems and stuff like that. And as I learned, I became a healing focused therapist as well, because I think it's really traumatic and trifling to uncover and sit with people in a trauma and not help them to move into healing. As
Mm,
much time as you need for trauma and to sit in that and sit through, absolutely. And also to attach healing and hope to it is really essential, especially for Black people. Like, we already have epigenetic trauma, it's in our DNA. We're more prone to have anxiety, heart disease, like all of these things that come from chattel slavery and manifest in all kinds of different ways. Um, but like, if it's trauma, like it's
yeah,
trauma, addressing things that hurt, help us to make empowered decisions rather than decisions that we're just like, well, I'm just doing that because like this is gonna help me get through the day, which makes sense and is not bad. Like, I get it, right? If
yeah,
if I was feeling some kind of way and I didn't have the gym, like when COVID hit, so many people were struggling. I'm sure suicide went up huge exponentially, just like intimate partner violence went up because
hmm
people were trapped in the house with people. But like, man, I I don't know. Like, suicidality is not something I deal with on a regular basis with myself, but maybe I would have wanted to kill myself. I don't
right,
know, right? Because that's how I cope.
right. Yeah, no, that's tough. I mean, I really don't have any problems, but COVID was it was rough, man. That shit was
Yeah,
boring, just sitting around all day. Like it wasn't a good time. So I can only imagine if you're already dealing with stuff and then you have to just sit there all day, you know.
right. And then try to make connections. And then you're like, okay, all right, I'm gonna get in the therapy bed. All right, cool. They're doing telehealth, absolutely. And then trying to connect with somebody through a screen that does not have people skills and
Mm,
isn't able to connect with who you are, and also is telling you that the things you're doing is wrong. Like, therapists are trash. We have to admit when we're wrong, and that's why whatever questions you ask me, like if I don't know, I'm gonna say I don't know. Like, and
mm,
it's so important, because how is my ego going to be the thing preventing you from working towards healing? That's tragic. You're paying me. What is that?
yeah,
It's like if somebody came to you as a client and you couldn't serve them, like if they were, I don't know what the extent of your qualifications are, but if it was too much, or just you
yeah,
weren't able to do it, you weren't qualified, and you didn't tell them that, and you kept working with them, wow, that's
yeah.
not ethical,
Right, right, right.
right?
No,
So,
I deal with that. I deal with that. When people want to do like legitimate bodybuilding shows, I'll tell them, you know, go to someone that really puts people on stage, you know. If you're just trying to improve your physique and stuff like that, that's cool. But I'm like, there's actual coaches that'll get you on stage. Like, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm very good at that because I'm not, you know.
yeah.
So I'm not gonna take your money just for no reason. So
Right.
I get that. But speaking of answering or not answering questions that you don't know, we got these questions from Twitter that we have to answer, bro.
Right.
So this first one, if the true intent of drug counseling is to help people, then why does it cost so much money?
Oh, absolutely. The war on drugs, because people don't fund things that actually help people, and they also don't create funded programs that are actually geared towards empowerment and help, rather pointing people towards things that are usually punitive, as in people get in trouble, go to treatment centers or something like that, and then if they fuck up one time, it's over. Like, then they get reported and go to jail, like they get violated or something like that. I mean, it's absolutely just like therapy, absolutely a tool of white supremacy as well, and control. Like, yeah, for sure. And that's why I am on private practice. Can't nobody tell me what to do or how to treat people or things like that, as long as I'm within the ethics of liberation and things like that. And I'm upfront with my clients about it. Um, that's what I'm going to do, because people deserve to be advocated for. Uh, it's absolutely, I mean, that's not even a hard question.
Yeah,
Addiction and programs that are truly helpful don't have any continuity to it because it doesn't give money back. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like they don't be like, you got better. Well, that means that maybe my services run out. You know, and people can say whatever they want about. Nah, that's not true. This, bro. When we stop treating addiction like a personal choice and start treating it like a public health thing, just like racism and anti-blackness, we will see some progress. But until you stop treating people like problems, then they're gonna have people fucked up always.
mm, I respect it. Good answer. Okay, last one. What's the best method for addressing the opioid crisis?
Absolutely, goes back to trauma treatment, having actual qualified skilled workers that look like us and that have funding, right? That have the actual time, aren't burned out, and have the funding to sit with people through their actual trauma. That's the only way I know. I mean, obviously, giving money to, communities that the government and shit like this has stolen forever,
Mhm.
redlining, blah, blah, stuff like that. But the reality is that if we address the root of things, like actually the root of things, it would be incredible how empowered people would be. Because, I mean, believe it or not, I would say 99% of people don't actually want to make other people's lives harder or their own lives.
Yeah.
Uh, and so there are certainly exceptions, people that are absolute pieces of shit for sure. And those
Mhm.
people don't care about people that are narcissistic, have narcissistic personality disorder, not just people that are like, you run around and you're like, that's a narcissist, shit like that, without knowing the qualifications, like actual people that are sociopaths and narcissistic personality disorder folks, and antisocial folks. But like, that's a huge generalization, right?
Yeah.
Most people want to do better, don't want to be in pain, and want to be able to be happy. And
Yeah.
so acting like people don't want to do that is ridiculous. And it's super problematic. You can't look at somebody that's struggling with addiction and be like, shit. When, I mean, you play 10 hours of video games a day, or you're gambling all your money away. Oh, behavioral addiction. Like, or you can't stop looking at porn and it's fucking with your life. Like, all of these things can be problems.
Yeah.
And when we look at people as problems, what we start doing is just like with people that use the Bible to justify all kinds of problematic shit. Then we start picking and choosing what's a problem and what's not. Like,
Mhm.
cannabis was a problem until it was legalized. And then it
You're
became
right.
something that's like, what's good? Yeah. See, it's not sneaky, it's just money. Like,
Yeah.
and we see the way this systemic oppressions work and really fuck with the people that are hurting. It's so predatory and it's so problematic.
It's a great answer, man. You're a smart dude.
I just be working with my mouth sometimes, man. I tell you.
I'm trying to get on your level, man. I need to read some more
Yeah,
books. I'm not there
that's
yet.
all you do. What are you talking about? You a lifelong learner. Learn Spanish in like a half a year. Like,
Hey,
you out here,
man.
okay.
I be trying to learn, but so I'm saying I need to get on your level, bro.
It's amazing. I'm super proud of you because while we are very different, the reality is that we both care about pouring back into people that want it, like, and that deserve it. And I think
100%.
for me specifically, with Black folks and just marginalized people in general, like, we deserve so much more than we have the funding for. I mean,
Mm,
we have no infrastructure, we got nothing. And here we are just being incredible and defying all of the odds and also being tired as fuck. And so if people are tired as fuck, then they deserve to be able to get the things they need. And
yeah.
so that's the goal, right? Is to be able to provide people with something that will help to empower them, because people are trying as hard as they can with whatever they have. I believe that.
Yeah.
And just because people piss me off sometimes doesn't mean they're not trying. It just means that I might not be able to serve them
Mm,
directly. I might be able to fund them some money. I might be able to point them towards different networks. But that's the goal, is to build and be able to network so that people can get what they deserve and what they need.
I respect it. All right, man. Before we get out of here, what's your mission statement, man? What are you all about? If you had to sum yourself up in a sentence or so.
Right. Well, my dissertation was talking about creating Black positive self-image. If I can help people to create authentic and intentional identity, and to be able to tell people, hey, that's not who I am. This is who I am. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that I will have done a good job.
I love it. I'm gonna put your social media information and description. And I don't know, did you ever publicize that dissertation? I don't remember if you
I
actually.
haven't published the dissertation, the documentary. I'm submitting to film festivals, and if you publish it publicly, then a lot of them won't accept it. So I have to wait.
Mm,
But you be the first one to get it because you were in
okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was gonna say if it's out, I'll put it in the description, but we'll have to wait for that. But yeah, I'll put your information in there if y'all want to follow the doctor. He's a really smart dude and he lifts heavy weights.
Actually, I have a deal. You can put the link to my shirts that are up for sale because I said a while back that if you buy a shirt, then I'll send you the link to the documentary.
Okay. Then I'll put the link for the shirts. Just send me that once we get finished with this. I'll put your information in the description. And anybody that wants to buy it and watch the documentary, you know what to do. All right, man. Thanks for coming on the show. We wrapped it up before 1 p.m. Center of the Universe time.
Man, that's so tragic. I'm so that's so
let me
embarrassing.
let me stop recording real fast. Thanks for being on the show, man. Hold on one second.